The one thing I usually come back to in discussions like this, what an asshole, right? Is I would like a robust demonstrator of the phenomenon in question.
Yeah.
I think it is one step too far removed to start to postulate what kinds of technological internal tools we have with which to perform telepathy. Why is that too far? One step too far removed. Because if I tell you, can you explain to me how, with this hand and this hand grip strength and this back and these quads, I can deadlift 3,000 pounds? You'd probably be like, let's take a step back and actually get you pulling on 3,000 pounds. And when you pick up a 3,000-pound barbell, I will begin to run amok with hypotheses as to how you can do it. But until
Yeah.
you can do it, all hypotheticals are not so much wasted cognitive stream, but kind of. It's just pretend. So when people say telepathy, I say, where has there ever been a reliable, robust, replicable demonstration of telepathy? I'll spare you the bad news. The answer is nowhere, ever. No one's ever been able to demonstrate telepathy in any sort of controlled setting, and even in an uncontrolled setting, in a reliable way. Uh, that is problem number one. So the supposition that there needs to be something to explain our ability to have telepathy is negated by the fact that the evidence for our telepathy is as close to zero as it gets statistically. So when someone does some supernatural shit, straight up, I'll be on board. I'll ask questions until I see some cool shit go down that we can't explain with the current laws of science. Uh, I just think maybe people like to pretend a whole lot, and that like return to nature stuff. That's a thing we see in a lot of different cultures and religions, and the sort of original sin situation, the noble savage myth. It turns out people back in the day just died a lot, brutally, all the time. And while they were internally stronger than us in certainly some ways, I don't think they were able to re architect their entire immune situation. Let's just bring up a really morose example that's oddly, it's just even a little bit politically incorrect, but why not? The Native American peoples are revered for their internal traditions and their wisdom. What happened when smallpox came? It buried them by the millions. Where were the people who could re-architect their nervous systems and immune systems? They weren't. Where could
Yeah.
people be that blocked bullets with their teeth or whatever? They don't exist. Where are they? So anytime people posit that there is a requisite for the mystical, my question is, where is the mystical? I've never seen anything truly supernatural in my entire life. Boy, did I look for a real long time. Ghost videos on the Discovery Channel growing up as a kid. There's just no videos of any ghosts. Now we're starting to maybe see some cool shit with aliens, where like some of the craft reported by, again, multi-sensor confirmed from the United States Navy. Okay, that's something serious to talk about. But like I saw a flying saucer, right on. Also, people make up a ton of stuff. We used to think as people that there were dragons and stuff. There were, to be clear, zero dragons ever, as far as we can tell. So, uh, you know, it's dope to think of stuff like that. And I absolutely know where dragons come from in our imagination. They come from our genetically implanted memories experiencing Pleistocene megafauna. I mean, there used to be 12-foot tall carnivorous birds and a 4,000-pound giant sloth. That shit would all kill you and eat you, and it's all literally monsters. We remember that in a deep way. We grow those memories ourselves growing up. Kids are afraid of the dark. Why? Because they think there's something with teeth back there. They've never seen anything teeth. They grew up in a suburb in Chicago. They've never seen a predatory animal up close or even in a zoo, but they can feel it. That's a big deal. That's real, but it's all in your brain, and there's no reason to suspect that it's some connection to some ethereal world that lives in a certain separate plane. You know what I'm trying to get at? So to me, it's always like,
Sure.
here's another thing: the pyramids. The pyramids are really impressive. They were only ever built once. Maybe you could say there's a few ziggurats and some of the pyramids in the Aztec region, so we'll call it 3 times. Fuck it, let's call it 10 through history.
With very similar geometric dimensions. I just did a podcast with Robert Edward Grant a week ago or so. He's this like brilliant mathematician, billionaire guy. And the pyramids constructed in Mexico / Guatemala, et cetera, they share identical, it's like diameters and the angles that they're constructed, and there's like, perhaps some of the stories could be painted with this, but like the lines that they're traveling across the earth, like it seems to be evident based off of, what I've gathered from people that have a bias towards this, that there was something kind of looking down at the earth to create the pyramids, to be able to place them in the geographical locations that they are,
Yeah.
which is interesting.
So if you take
Hard to explain.
one side of a sheet and the other side of a sheet, and on one side of the sheet you write differences between pyramid designs between the different kinds of pyramids, and
Yeah,
on the other side
more
of the sheet you
differences.
write commonalities, you will get probably like, several orders of magnitude more difference than you will commonalities.
Hmm.
And our human bias and thinking is designed to pick up on commonalities. We are difference detectors. We are pattern recognizers. And so it's real easy to get caught up in thinking, okay, this is just too much to happen by chance. How do you know that? What is the base rate of chance? There are many instances where chance produce completely insane results. Just run the experiment enough and really wacky shit happens. So to me, first of all, that probably explains almost all the variance and how cool the pyramids are. Second of all, the pyramids are in many ways lacking one very special thing. And here it is. Any real impressive indicator of a level of technology that the people at the time did not possess. For example, pretty much all of the blocks used to build the Egyptian pyramids are just fucking blocks of just fucking concrete or whatever the fuck they were, sandstone, all the way
Yeah.
through, right? Just solid. It would be really impressive if many or some of the blocks were insanely architected internally, like a 3D printer would make, and have these little holes and cubbies. Like if you look at a microchip or a cell phone, we take like look at the iPhone for a second. I mean, the intricacy of its internal, it's not just a block, right? It looks like a block, but the intricacy of its internal design is fucking next level. I mean, there's like unreal orders of magnitude of complexity here. Nothing like an iPhone was ever built by the Egyptians or the Aztec. They built simple geometrical shapes, arranged quite interestingly and impressively, I might add, but they never had a technology that, or remnants of something that was like, okay, this is like 1,000 years in the future type shit. Or in the case of the pyramids of Egypt, 5,000 or something like that, several thousand years in the future. That we've never seen. Well, obviously we're getting to the ancient aliens hypothesis, which is great to talk about on any podcast, of course. But
Sure.
is what else we got? That's my next question about the pyramids and stuff. We got some commonalities that are quite interesting. The lines of the earth, the angles and stuff like that. That's cool. That really tickles the imagination. Do we have anything? Let me give you an interesting analogy. You like a girl a lot, and let's say you're in middle school. You don't know if she likes you or not. Like, remember that one time where she picked up her pencil and she looked at you and she kind of smiled? Fucking, that was it, right? She's fucking in love with me. I knew it. Whatever, hold on a second. People just look up and smile at people sometimes. That happens all the time, every day. And if you wanted convincing evidence of her liking you, you'd be like, okay, so let's say you get a handwritten note. But your friends could have written it to fuck with you, right? So even that might not do. If you get her to say in front of you, like, look, Jim, I really, really do like you. Well, now we're starting on something. So when people
Hmm.
say, look, we have to re-architect our whole vision of history and the world and posit ancient aliens, I needed something a little bit more impressive than a fucking pyramid made of just like
Well,
rocks that point at a fucking star. Like, dope. You
they're
guys made
actually
a non-functioning observatory. Amazing.
so there are examples of things like one, I was just in Egypt 5 months ago, 4 months ago or something.
Mm,
And during that time, some of the, so I was like enamored by some of this while I was there,
I'm
and
sure.
also trying to maintain a skeptical perspective simultaneously. But there is you can look up some of the pottery that they created, which is made out of really dense fucking stone. And it is constructed such that it's like it opens up at the bottom and then it gets narrow at the top and then it kind of opens up into a lid and it's completely hollowed out. And we don't know how we could actually do that. Like we would actually have the technology to be able to do that today. And so the suggestion is like
Wait,
maybe you
what?
had like a little, yeah,
Of
look,
course we have the technology to do that today. Like, that's how a ton of pots are. Wait, I must be misunderstanding something. So you're like open and then
it's
closed. And
stone, hard stone with
mm,
a hand on the side, so all carved out. So imagine you take a dense fucking rock,
mm,
big dense rock,
mm.
and hollow it out entirely without having any way to access the inside other than a very tiny little top hole.
But then
And
you
so
just put like a stick through, right? And the stick has some kind of thing
yeah,
on the end.
try to do that 4,000 years ago. What technology are you going to use for that?
With
And
some kind of hard thing, right? That's all you need.
just take a look. It's like I love and respect the scientific reductionist, like everything is science perspective, and well, maybe everything is science in a way because it's just a way of languaging, and you know a way of yeah, it's just a form of communication
Sure.
to be able to like deduce like what's happening here. So perhaps everything could be, you could say everything's science. That's fine. But the smartest people on the planet that are looking at this stuff are like, yeah, we don't actually know how to do that. Like
I,
like
I
it seems really challenging to be able to construct something like that.
the
Hard
smartest
stone.
people on the planet have looked at this.
Yeah, there's been I'm
Like
spacing the guy.
Elon Musk and all the guys behind OpenAI, like they're looking at this, and
I'd be curious what Elon's perspective on how they would create something like that 4,000 years ago, or now for that matter. Hard stone, hard block, narrow little top,
yeah,
and you're going to hollow out the whole entire thing
yeah, yeah.
with technology from 4,000 years ago, primitive technology, quote unquote primitive technology, with a little handle on the side. So there's no way it was a lathe. It wasn't rotated. Like there's actually like a handle apart, so it wouldn't have been spinning.
Wait,
Be
how
very
do we know
challenging
it
to do
wouldn't have
that
been spinning?
because there's a handle sticking out from the side with a
Why
little
can't you
like
put the
holder
handle
thing,
on top afterwards?
because it's made out of stone. It's connected.
Okay.
Everything's integrated. There's
Why?
no like gluing that happened with it.
You can't. Why does the handle mean that it can't be spun? What's the
Handle would
problem with
break
the
off.
handle?
Handle would break off if it's spinning.
Why is it
Dun, dun, dun,
dependent
dun,
on a
dun.
certain velocity, or
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe there's some way to set it up so it's so that that would happen. Yeah, maybe
listen?
there's some way for that.
I
Just
hear
from
all
what
that. It's impressive, and it could be like a real, like really straining. There are two options there that we can conclude. One is, look, we're not going to jettison our entire view of the naturalistic world yet. And we're going to think maybe there's probably a way that humans actually made that with a past tech. We just don't know it. The
yeah,
other idea is what exactly? That people had an ancient technology. Maybe some of their technologies were lost to time. That could have been a thing. Not everything fossilizes, not everything is preserved. So maybe they had some cool bendy rods that we just don't have access to in the archaeological evidence. But to suppose, it's always the folks that are in the mysticism, they have that next level supposition that they're already ready to conclude, and it's aliens or God or some crazy shit that I just think we would need a whole lot more evidence for than this kind of thing.
well, and then simultaneously for the people that are coming for more from like the hyper reductionist side, they're only available for that lens. I think there's like a middle ground somewhere where it's like, fuck, maybe aliens are real, and then suddenly like, oh well, actually seems like CIA has been privy to that for a very long time. Interesting that, because you would be a total asshole to be a person that's like open to that, and then suddenly it's like, okay, maybe there's some spiritual stuff, maybe the concept of um, your spirit, whatever that is, however one describes that, is able to travel on, and maybe it's able to maintain, maybe there's multiple planes of reality or multiple dimensions of reality. Maybe this is just one dimension that we're on right now. I'm not smart enough to be able to express this stuff in a way that I think would be really that convincing. But I think there is an in-between space where it's like perhaps there's a balance between, maybe there is some supernatural potentialities, and maybe there's also some non-supernatural potentialities, but perhaps it's like there's like an in-between liminal space there where we can meet in the middle. Not you and I, because I don't think I identify with one side. I'm more
Sure.
of like, I try to
You're an
maintain
explorer.
centrism.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm like willing to go out like,
Yeah.
fuck, like, yeah, all
Totally. At
right,
the end of the day,
let's
we all
see.
are, if we're honest. I'm certainly not 100% convinced that the world is mechanistic. It's just my default, very high probability state. And
Yeah.
my gigantic lifelong disappointment with the supernatural is that the supernatural always and everywhere fails to show up.
Hope you guys enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. If you did, feel free to tag us on the Instagram. You can find me at Aaron Alexander on there. Also check out the YouTube channel, that is at Align Podcast. Subscribe over there so you get each week's videos and instructional content. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for reviews. Thanks for doing you. I'll see you next week.